Job interviews. As a lot of you start graduating high school and start planning to attend college in the coming fall semester, something that you're going to start experiencing if you go into the workforce or after college is job interviews and everything that goes along with them. Now, in my experience, I've worked in the same restaurant, or I did work at the same restaurant for going on about 6 years, and I'm only 20 years old. So I had a lot of job experience, but not a lot of experience doing interviews or doing more professional interviews. Therefore, being the reason why I'm dressed up for this, because I spent $50 on this and I want to get more use out of it than just one interview. A lot of the jobs that I started looking at were marketing and graphic design jobs, simply because I wanted to kind of step my game up, try to get more of a professional career and kind of work towards something a little bit more stable. And so I started applying to those kinds of places. And obviously, I heard nothing back, which is gonna be 95% of the time that you interview at places, I feel like, especially being someone like myself who never went to college, because I thought that I could make a living without it, and now here I am struggling and not being able to find a job. One afternoon, I get a call from one of these places saying that they liked my resume, but they had a few questions for me. So there I am, I'm freaking out. I'm with my brother at the time, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like this is really happening. Like they called me, and the position I had applied to for this company specific was as a junior marketer. It was an entry level. It was gonna be a really big deal marketing job, and that, you know, they didn't really deal with big time advertising, but a lot of face-to-face advertising. Now, I didn't really know what that meant. In my mind, I thought that they were talking about like maybe I was going to be presenting to these smaller companies as to how I can better market their business, or what they can do for themselves to market their business, and, you know, kind of go from there. That wasn't really the case, as it turns out. Anyways, I get a call from this company and they have questions for me. Well, apparently they like what I had to say, and they liked it enough that they wanted to go ahead and give me an in-person face-to-face interview. Only problem being that they wanted to do it the next day, and I live 5-6 hours away from the place I was interviewing at. Now, I have no problem driving a large distance for an interview, but it was 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon at this point, and I had to drive 6 hours to get there, spend the night. I had to buy a suit on the way there, hence why I'm wearing a suit in this video. And I was just so nervous, but I said yes, obviously, because I thought this was a big opportunity for me. I didn't think I'd get an interview so early on in the job search, but you gotta do what you gotta do. I get there about 10-11 o'clock. It's late. The only place that's open at this time is IHOP, and I don't like IHOP. I don't like pancakes. So there I am, sitting in IHOP at 11:30, still waiting for my pancakes, drinking a cup of coffee, just racking in my brain, what am I gonna say at this interview? What are they gonna ask me? What's gonna happen? I wake up the next morning, and I get breakfast, I get some coffee in me, I start ironing my suit, I do my hair, I take a shower. I think I'm looking good. Obviously, I didn't take a picture at this moment, but something about like right here is what I was looking like. I thought I looked fly. I mean, hell, I'd hired myself. I get done with all that, check out, I'm on the road, and I start going to the job interview. I get there 30 minutes early, and I start looking at questions that job interviewers ask and start figuring out what my answers would be to these questions. I go ahead after that, I get my bag because I brought a little suitcase with me. I thought it looked super cool, super professional, and I start walking into the building. That's where the first red flags should have started popping up. As I entered the building, I realized that there was no clear distinction as to where their office space was. However, after a little bit of looking around, I saw that they were in the corner of the building, kind of out of view of anything else, which was a little bit disconcerting. I enter the building, there's this guy sitting at the front desk, and he greets me. He asks me, you know, oh, what can I do for you? I said, oh, hi, I'm here for the job interview. He asks me, what do you like to do? I tell him I hike, all this, you know, crap. And I ask him, oh, you know, how long have you lived here? And he's like, oh, not very long. I'm from North Dakota. They transferred me here because this is like our best performing branch, and yada, 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 all this other crap. That, looking back on it, didn't make sense. Then from the office doors, in comes this guy, and he just looked like he radiated power, you know? Like the kind of guy that you see in a TV show, like he walks in, you're like, that's either a really important character, like a main character, or he's a villain. So he comes in and he looks at my resume and he's like, oh, can you step into my back office? I said, of course. I follow him in there and he says that he has some questions for me, and I thought I answered them great. I was professional and I was speaking very politely, all that good stuff. After that, he says, you know, I really like what you had to say. I'm gonna go ahead and call you back for the second phase of interviews later this evening if you have the time. And I said, yes, of course. However, I was a little bit worried because I didn't have a place to stay tonight. I booked a hotel room for one night and one night only, but I went ahead and told them, yeah, of course, I'd love to come back for a second round. I come back about an hour or so later, a little bit early before the second phase of the interview begins. I get there and a separate guy starts interviewing, not the first guy, the big power move guy, but a different guy. So the interview begins, but it wasn't really an interview. He just started explaining what marketing was and like different examples of marketing. And I'm not a professional by any means, but I know enough about it to not have it explained to me. I feel like just by the nature of the business that I was applying to, they would assume that I had some level of marketing knowledge. But he continues, doesn't really ask me any more questions, and says, don't ask me any questions during this because I'm gonna answer 99% of your questions along the way. And all he did was give me 10,000 more the entire time he was talking, because he said that this was a marketing business and that they deal with big players like Verizon, AT&T, Amazon, all these big companies. And I have this big image in my brain like, oh, I'm gonna be making ads that are gonna be seen by a lot of people on like social media or maybe even television, who knows? That wasn't the case. What it turns out is that they did marketing for AT&T at the moment, but that marketing was like, you know those guys when you go into, say, a mall and you're walking around the mall, you're having a great time, you're with your significant other or your family or a sibling, whatever it is. You're walking through the store, you got a cup of Starbucks in your hand, and life is great. And then you feel someone looming behind you and you feel a presence start encroaching up upon you. They tap you on the shoulder or they get your attention somehow. And you look over and it's a salesman and they're trying to sell you sunglasses or ties or weird bowls or whatever it is. That's basically what they did, except in Target. They had these new AT&T stores and I would be the guy who was bugging people to try to buy a phone or to sign up for AT&T. And that completely threw me for a loop. He made it sound like it was the best thing in the world. But then he started to go into detail as to how to move your way up in the business. And that's where I got really concerned. He starts explaining how I would start off at that AT&T salesman level just for 4 weeks. So I'd be working in a Target as one of those annoying guys for only 4 weeks. And then from there, I would be promoted if I sold enough phones to a supervising manager or something like that. At that point, I would start being taught how to hire people, how to interview people, how to present to people. It just didn't make sense. After only 4 weeks of working at this company, I'm already a supervising manager and I'm already learning how to interview and hire people. He goes on to explain that after 6 to 8 months, I would then be promoted once again to an assisting manager. Learn all the ins and outs of the business. I'd get some office responsibilities and the opportunity to go on business trips and travel for work. Again, that didn't make a lot of sense to me because at this point I only worked at the business for 6 to 8 months. How is it that I'm already an assistant manager? And why would you give me such a precise time frame for this? It doesn't make sense. Like, if you're working in a business and you work hard, then there's a possibility you'll get promoted. But to give me such a precise number, in 6 to 8 months, you will be this. It didn't make sense. And then he goes on to say, within a year to 2 years, I'd be a complete manager. At that point, I'd be working only a couple hours a day. I'd be making $80,000 to $100,000 a year, and all these great benefits that came along with it. It again didn't make any sense to me. And the entire time, there's only one thought that's going through my head. Shit, this is a pyramid scheme. I drove 6 hours, bought a $200 suit just to apply at a pyramid scheme. I was so confused. I go through the rest of the interview and I say my thank yous for interviewing me, and I go on my way. And they said that they'd give me a call within about 12 hours. I leave the business and I go, I'm like just so baffled as to what just happened. And I thought I was being pessimistic, so I call a few friends and family and I tell them what my experience was, and they're like, oh no, you're being pessimistic, or this is a great opportunity, you need to jump on this. But I can't get rid of that nagging feeling in the back of my mind. I start looking up reviews for them online, like Glassdoor and other like employee review websites. The strangest thing happened. I saw either 5-star, like perfect reviews saying, oh, this was a wonderful workplace, they treated me amazing, they treated me like family, the pay's amazing, I get paid time off, it's just the best place in the world. Like the way that they were describing it, you would have thought that they were working like Disneyland or something like that. But I saw the other side of things. I saw 1-star reviews, and there was no in between, which is so odd. Very rarely do you see in a business either amazing, just wonderful reviews or 1-star reviews. And the 1-star reviews were saying how, looked at all the hours that they worked and how much they were really being paid. They were being paid below minimum wage. They were given no time off, and they weren't given any support within the company. But then I got really concerned when I saw 2 or 3 people saying how it was a borderline pyramid scheme or a legal pyramid scheme or something of the sort, just from me being in an interview and getting that feeling and this like little nagging thought in the back of my mind, to then see people saying or confirming what I had thought, that it was a pyramid scheme. It was disheartening, it was embarrassing, but it also made me very angry. I had spent all this time, I spent quite a bit of money on a suit, on a hotel room, and I spent a lot of mental energy just preparing for an interview, all for me to basically get disappointed in the end. And I was prepared for them to say no, but I wasn't prepared to be disappointed by the company basically being false. Now, I did a lot of research on the company, and I looked at the job application, and I thought that this was a real deal place. I want everyone watching this video to not make the same dumb mistake that I made. Look into a business before you apply to it, because you never know when something shady is going on and when something's too good to be true. Make sure that you look at employee reviews and see what they have to say about the business, because even if the pay is amazing, everyone deserves to be treated fairly and like a human being in the end. Bit of a story time video, but I thought, I was a little bit angry from the whole experience. I thought it was a pretty okay story, and kind of as a little PSA, just make sure that you're looking into the place that you're applying at, because you never know when something weird's going on. But anyways, thank you so much for watching my video. Yeah, bye.